Millions of you have watched my competition chicken trimming videos, but this one is different. I'm gonna go step by step, straight from the package, what I'm looking for in a chicken thigh, all the way to the breakdown. This one won't be fast forward, I won't do 10x speed. I'm gonna show you my whole trimming process with competition chicken thighs. What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the BBQ Tips Podcast. I'm your host, Christie Vanover, champion pitmaster, cookbook author, the girl behind one of America's top barbecue websites, girlscangrill.com, and a contestant on Food Network's Barbecue Brawl. I'm here to bring you some quick barbecue tips to help you up your barbecue game. Well, this is a podcast, which means some of you might be listening to audio, but I'm also showing this on YouTube, so there's going to be some visual demonstrations as well. I will describe it as best as I can for the audio listeners, but when you get a chance, audio listeners, you're going to want to head on over to YouTube because you are going to want to see the full video tutorial of how I trim my competition chicken thighs. As I said, millions of people have watched my videos, and it's one of the most engaged pieces of content that I have on social media because those who are not involved in competition chicken look at this process and go, WTF, like what are you doing to the chicken? You're like mutilating it, you're totally turning it into something that's not its original form. Well, that's what competition barbecue is like. Appearance is a really important part of the process, and to get a good score on appearance, it's good to have uniform pieces of chicken. That's not a requirement, but it definitely helps because you eat with your eyes first, and if everything looks beautiful and uniform, then those judges are more likely to give you that perfect score of a 9. So today I'm going to talk to you about my whole process. I actually have a competition coming up this weekend. It's actually tomorrow, so hopefully I get this video out before then, before I head on over to Boulder City for the Best Damn Barbecue competition. I love this comp. It was actually the first competition I ever competed in 2017, and now I've actually won the competition in the past. I didn't win it last year, but hopefully I can regain that GC title so I can get my bung for the jack because this is an automatic for the World Championships. For the past several competitions, I've been running chicken legs. They are so much easier. I can trim those in less than 30 minutes. There's really not a lot of prep to them. They're really easy to smoke and cook, but I just haven't been getting the scores that I want. I've been in like the teens and the 20s when it comes to my ranking, whereas when I do chicken thighs, I tend to be more likely in the top 10. So for this competition, I'm gonna go back to my trusty chicken thighs. Before we get started trimming, I'm going to talk to you about the equipment that I'm using. First of all, you're just going to need a cutting board. It doesn't matter what kind of cutting board, just some kind of cutting board that gives you enough space to work with. Next, you are going to want a kitchen scale. The reason for this is because we are going to weigh every single one of these pieces of chicken thigh so that we get some uniformity. I don't want a 6-ounce thigh and a 10-ounce thigh. I want everything to be pretty similar in size. Next, I have a fillet knife or a boning knife. This is what we're going to use to just trim it up and scrape those skins. I like to use a pair of kitchen scissors, kitchen shears, and then I also use garden shears. This is what I use to break the bones because I get in there and I knock off that knuckle, which I'll show you that process shortly. Of course, you're gonna need some latex or nitrile gloves. I like ones that have texture, so I use the GloveWorks ones. That just gives, they've got some like bumpy ridges on them, so it makes it easier for me to grip onto the slimy chicken skins. And then just a few paper towels. I've also got some sheet pans here because what's gonna happen is I'm gonna weigh these and I'm gonna kind of organize them on my sheet pans. Are you guys ready to get started? All right, I've got my gloves on, I've got my scale on. We're just gonna cut into one of these packages. Now, I have a whole video on how I select my chicken and all of my competition meats. So I'll leave a link to that so you guys can watch that. But basically with chicken, I am looking for the package that weighs the most because sometimes it'll be like $7 for a package and sometimes it'll be $10 for a package. The packages that cost more mean that they weigh more, which means you're gonna get some bigger pieces of meat in that package. So I just go and I start. Like I've got one piece here, I'm weighing it. This is 7.5 ounces. That's smaller than I'm gonna want. So I kind of set it closer to me because I know it's not one that I'm gonna cook. This one I can tell is going to be big. This is 10.3. What I am looking for are pieces that are anywhere from like 8.5 to 10, and then I'll kind of go from there. That one's 7.7, that one is 7. We're getting a few small ones in this package that comes with the territory. 8.7, that's a little bit better. This one I can tell is going to be small, but I weigh it anyway, 6.9. I got an 8.5, that's a keeper. This one I can feel is tiny, 7.2, 7.0. and 6.7. So out of this package of 10 chicken thighs, I've got 3 that I can work with. So your odds are not so great. That's why I buy 3 to 4 packs of chicken. I'm gonna go ahead and open the next pack. Just kind of lay them all out on my cutting board and go through the same process. 8.4, this guy's tiny, 5.7, that's the smallest one we've had yet. 6.3, another tiny guy, 7.2. I'm getting a lot in the 7s this time. Usually that doesn't happen. 8.1, that's better than the 7 range, 7.7. The 8.1 is still gonna be probably a no for me, but based on how small most of these are today, I might have to dip into the 7s or else go to the store to buy more, and I don't really want to do that. So honestly, out of this whole package of 10, I got one that was above 8.5. Not so great. So we probably are going to have to go with some smaller thighs this week. One more package to go. As I'm taking these out of the package, they do feel a little heavier, which is good because we need that. 7.6. All right, we got a 9.2. We'll keep that guy. 8.4, we're going to have to keep him. 7.9. This guy's little, 6.3, 7.5, 9.1, 7.2, 7.6. This guy's fat, 9.9. Okay, so I have 8 that are 8.5 to 10 ounces. So that's okay. I should have bought 4 packs. I usually buy 4. I cheated myself and I bought 3 this time. So live and learn. So I am going to get rid of all of the ones that were definitely under 7 ounces. We don't want those. And then I'm just gonna look for the ones that were closer to the 8.5. This guy was 7.9. This was an 8.0. 7.7. 7.6. I just need 2 more. 8.3. 7.5. So wherever that 7.7 went. Yep. Okay. So there we go. We got 12 that we can keep. We got the rest of them that we're not going to keep. One thing I do want to show you guys though, for those of you who don't do competition barbecue, let's talk about just how I would trim a chicken thigh for just a regular backyard barbecue. So if you look at a chicken thigh and you open it up, it's going to have this kind of big flat fattiness, this piece of skin here. I actually like to take my knife and cut that right off. Then I just kind of shape it. When it comes to seasoning it, I open it up and I see if there's any other slimy pieces and I kind of pull those out, use my knife. Don't worry about the knuckle, just open it up, see how you like it. Then when it comes time to cook it, I'm just gonna season the inside, season the top, roll it up, and you can get grilling. You can either smoke it or you can grill it. I've got recipes at girlscangrill.com. I'll leave a link for them to just do a traditional chicken thigh. That's all you have to do. Don't worry about these next steps if you don't plan to do competition barbecue. But if you want to give it a try, some people say it's really tedious. I kind of think it's a little bit of fun. Maybe I'm crazy, I don't know. All right, but let's get in it. So for competition, we're gonna take the skin off. That is the first step. Just go ahead and set that aside. Then when you take the skin off, you are going to notice there's going to be some fat globules on both ends. Taking my knife here and just kind of scraping it at a 45-degree angle to get rid of that. Okay, I'm going to look at the inside. This meat right here, some people call it an oyster. It's actually technically not the oyster part of the chicken. Those are more kind of by the backbone, but we're going to call them an oyster when it comes to today. So what I'm looking for is I'm lifting up that oyster and I'm looking in here for a vein. This is why I like grippy gloves. They give me just a little bit of grip and texture so I can reach in there with my finger and pull those veins out. You can leave them, but when it comes to a judge taking one bite of chicken, I don't want that vein to get caught in their bite and ruin the tenderness and the texture. There's also on the other side where you don't have the oyster, there's this little fat pocket. This is where I like to take my scissors and just cut that out a bit. Now, granted, fat gives you flavor, and this is gonna render down quite a bit, but I just really don't want that in there because if they take a bite and they get more fat than they have meat, then again, you're gonna lose the texture game. Okay, now let's look at these bones. Now I will tell you, most people on the competition circuit, they will just take their knife and they're just gonna cut off a little nick of that knuckle. If that's what you wanna do, go for it. I take my garden shears and I just take that whole thing off. The risk with doing that is you might have some shards, you might have some marrow kind of coming out of the bone. This was a pretty clean cut here, so I'm happy with that. Then you're gonna take your knife and you're just gonna square up that end the best you can. The main thing is that you want there to just be meat right at the edge, at this end tip. You don't want there to be cartilage, you don't want there to be bone, you don't want there to be fat. Then I go to this other side, same thing, not everybody does this. I choose to. I come in here with my garden shears, give it a little pinch. Sometimes you have to come in with your knife, square that up. Now on this side, you are gonna find some cartilage. So I like to come in here, look for that cartilage, take my knife, and kind of cut that away. Even though the judge is not gonna bite from that end, I just like to get rid of it because I don't want it in the judge's mouth. Turn that back over, take my scissors, and kind of go around the edges, just clean them up a bit, soften them. You're kind of cutting it at a 45-degree angle. That looks good. Then you roll it back up. When you roll it up, you kind of want to push on the edges. And then that's when you take your scissors while it's rolled up like a burrito. Take them again. Just make sure everything looks nice and smooth. That is a pretty good looking chicken thigh. Now we got our skin, right? So we're done with the shears. I'll set those aside. I'm gonna lay this out. Obviously it's a strange shape because it's just natural. So take your knife, make sure you sharpen your knife before you do this process. It'll make things so much easier. This is the part that people don't like. This is the part that's kind of therapeutic to me. I take my knife and I hold it at a 45-degree angle. I actually put my thumb kind of right here. I hold one end of the chicken thigh skin with my fingers, holding it down. And this is again why I like textured gloves, because this part is pretty slippery. You hold that down and you push your knife forward at that 45-degree angle, scraping off that excess fat. The reason we are doing this is because if you leave all that fat, it can kind of become chewy. When you cook chicken, if you cook it at lower temperatures, that chicken skin's not gonna render. That's why when I do like whole chickens, I will cook it at high temperatures, like 375 to 425, because I really want that chicken skin to render. But with this, we're smoking it at 275 to 300, and so the chicken skin will be actually like rubbery, which will for sure give you bad scores in a competition. Next, you wanna just turn your chicken skin 180 degrees so you can scrape the other side. Sometimes I will leave a little fat pocket in the middle. If it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, I don't overthink it. This one does have a little bit of a tear in it. I'm not actually worried about that. It's gonna be okay. Then you open up your chicken thigh, lay it back on top. I'm gonna just give it a little bit of a trim so that the shape of the skin is just a little bit closer to the actual shape of the chicken piece itself. Roll it up tight, and there you go. That is what a competition chicken thigh looks like. And now, if you weigh this, I think this was our piece that weighed 7.7 ounces. Now that it's all trimmed up, it weighs 5 ounces. So our goal weight, I started with the smallest one because I can't make a small one bigger, but I can make a big one smaller. So our goal weight is about 5 ounces for every single chicken thigh. With a 5-ounce thigh, I could probably put 8 or 9 in a box if I wanted to. I'll probably still stick with 6 pieces in a box because my family likes to eat the rest of them, and so do I. But you can definitely load your box up if you want to. Okay, let's do this again. Remember, we're taking off the skin, setting it aside, flattening it out with the bone side down, taking our knife at a 45-degree angle, removing all this excess blubber, flipping it over so the bone side is up, getting rid of any of that slime that you can kind of pull away. Then you're gonna dig in, look for that flap of oyster meat, and underneath that is where you're gonna find that vein and that tendon. Pull that out. Sometimes I can get a hold of 2 of them, sometimes not. There is one deep in there. There we go, got it out. Go to the other side, look for this fat. Just give it a little nick with your scissors. Grab those garden shears, cut off that knuckle, Square up that edge. Flip it 180 degrees. Get in on this side of the joint. Again, use those shears. I usually use the shears. They get me most of the way through it. Then I square it up with my knife. And again, I look in there. If there's excess cartilage, which this one has a little bit of, try to get some of that. Take my scissors, go around the edges just a little bit, soften it up. Looks pretty good. Roll it up like a burrito. Look to see if there's any pieces that are sticking out. This guy's got a little bit right there. And I'm constantly trying to clear my cutting board of anything that's kind of on there and in the way. Got a little bit of a bulge sticking out here. Yeah, that guy looks pretty good, except you also want to use your fingers to feel. I am feeling some of this cartilage right here that I missed. So I'm going to get in there with my knife, get that off. And that caused this bone to stick out a little bit, but I think he'll be just fine once we cover him with skin. All right, flipping that skin over, again, fat side up. Cut off some of that excess. Hold your knife, 45-degree angle. Go ahead and give it a scrape away from you. You're pushing your knife away from yourself, flipping the skin the opposite direction, but still fat side up. Again, pushing that fat off of the skin and away from you. The colder your chicken thighs are, the easier this is to do. Once your chicken thighs start to get warm, then that fat starts to kind of render and melt, and that makes them even more slimy and a little bit harder to do. So usually I would do like 4 at a time, and I would keep these in the refrigerator. For the sake of this episode, I'm just keeping them out right now. So great, another beautiful one. Let's check our weight on this. I want it to be within a like 0.5 ounce range of the 5 ounces. 4.6, there we go. It's a little bit under. I think that might have been a little bit smaller of a thigh. Let's go ahead and do this big guy. Remember, this was 10 ounces. I want to get it down to 4.5 to 5.5. So let's see what happens. Remember, we can go smaller, we can't go bigger. Pulling the skin off, cutting off that excess fat and blubber. This is where you can trim a little bit more aggressively because we know we're gonna need to make this guy smaller. You can already tell though, all this meat on the top here above the knuckle, that's gonna get trimmed away, and that's gonna immediately make this closer in size to the other ones. Because here we go, right here, I'm cutting off all of this meat. And look, he's already a small guy. And going in for this knuckle. Now this guy has a lot of cartilage, so really getting in there with my knife. Taking that off, getting all of the slime out of here. Nobody wants to eat slime. Digging in, looking for that vein, looking for any tendons. Don't be afraid to manipulate the meat to really like mess with it and dig in there. I mean, you don't want to damage the meat per se. You don't want to tear it, but you'll be able to like follow the fat seams and figure out kind of your openings and where you can get in there. Okay, then we're going to go in with the scissors. Get some of that fat. Little trim around the edges. I might have actually made this guy a little bit too small, but we'll find out when we throw it on the scale. Burrito wrap it. Look at any pieces that are bulging out a little bit. All right, now all that's left is to scrape the skin. Remember, fat side up. Trim it kind of close to the size of your chicken thigh. No sense in scraping extra that you're gonna just throw away. And then again, run your knife, scraping the skin away from your body. All right, flip it around 180 degrees. Again, still fat on top. scraping the other side away from you. I like to use a larger cutting board because it just gives me more room to play with. Cool, that one's done. And throw this guy on top, roll it up. The skin's a little bit bigger on this one. You can trim it if you want to, but I'm happy with it. I'm gonna turn the scale on and see where we're at. Again, we wanna be at 4.5 to 5.5. I'm right at 4.5. So I took that 10-ounce one, I trimmed it a little aggressively, made it a little bit smaller, but you know what? I don't care, it's gonna be fine. Again, as long as you're like, I said a half ounce earlier, but I meant 1 ounce. As long as you're within a 1 ounce range, so 0.5 plus or 0.5 minus, then they're gonna be close enough in shape and size. That's it, guys. That is my whole process. The rest of these chicken thighs, I'm actually gonna do some practice runs on them. I'm gonna try some different brines, some different injections, because I'm always trying new things and changing things up. So I'm gonna do that with some of these. Sometimes I just cook them up and give them to the dogs. Sometimes I just cook them like regular barbecue chicken like normal people would in their backyard. I've got plenty of that. Sometimes I just give it to the neighbors. For the other 9 thighs, I'm gonna go ahead and finish those up and get those ready for the competition tomorrow. Now, as far as all of this glop that's left over, sometimes I will take the fat and I will render that down and make schmaltz, just like you make tallow. You cook it over low heat on the stove until it fully renders down. And I actually like to put schmaltz in my butter bath pan in my chicken thighs because it gives it so much more beautiful chicken flavor. So we'll save that. We'll do that a little bit later after I get this all trimmed out. Thanks so much for following along. Be sure to go to girlscangrill.com. I've got the full recipe for how I actually cook these in a competition. There's 2 methods that I like to use. They're both on my website, and I use my Girls Can Grill chicken rub, which I'll put a link to below, and you can also find that on Amazon. It's also now in Shields and Fleet Farm and several other stores and specialty barbecue shops around the country. As always, guys, you can find thousands of barbecue tips and hundreds of barbecue recipes at girlscangrill.com, and you can follow me on all the socials at Girls Can Grill. Be sure to hit that subscribe button so you never miss an episode. Thanks so much, guys, and if you're competing this weekend, good luck and happy grilling.